All right, today I wanted to talk about how I got to 5 watts per kilogram. I'm going to touch on some key points that hopefully you can look at, what your environment and training environment is like and see where there might be areas that you can adjust, where there are areas you're happy, and hopefully give me some feedback on what you think are some important areas for just improving your cycling power and fitness in general, and also for us climbers, hitting a higher watt per kilogram. Kind of 5 key contributors, although one, the genetic factors, is sort of unknown since there's not really anything to test for that. But I think just for some perspective, if you're a person who's 6'5" and you're putting out, 350 watts at threshold, which is a lot of power, getting down to 70 kilos, which is like 100, low 150s, is going to be rough just because of your height. So I think something that people need to be realistic about is just, given your height, is this something that is achievable? I'm right now about 5'9", so for me to control my body weight and get to a reasonable level, is not as challenging as if I was much taller. Kind of the other stuff that we don't know about. I have a time trialist power profile, so I have good, much better 20-minute power than 5-minute power. Kind of the unknown is, if I look at where I am for my 5 and 20-minute watt per power and watt per kilogram on intervals to ICU, I'm in a pretty high percentile. As a child, I did not really have any kind of athletic or endurance sports inclinations. The question is, am I a genetic outlier? Am I predisposed to being good at endurance sports? I have no idea, but if you look at my family, probably not. So I think the main thing is consistency. So early on, I'd ride 5 days a week outside, and I would adjust. I'd try to aim for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday and Sunday. And I would adjust the days during the week, usually depending on weather. So if it was going to rain Tuesday, I would ride Monday instead. If it was going to rain Tuesday and Wednesday, I'd ride Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So maybe 3 or 4 years ago, for scheduling and other reasons, I decided to just ride indoors during the week. And I found that even if I was just riding Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, but I was just doing those same exact days every week, I had a performance increase just from that, and I felt better. Since I was riding indoors and I liked riding, that allowed me to add a couple more active recovery or endurance rides on Monday and Friday. And I think another big thing is just, this is aerobic sport. It takes years and years and years of cycling and getting stronger that build on top of each other. So there were a couple times where, due to work stress and other reasons, I got kind of burned out and I didn't ride for about 6 months. But other than that, when I have been riding, I've been riding 5 days a week most of that time, until recently, where I bumped it up to 7. So basically for 17 years, I've been doing all that work. So I think a key thing too is, if you're a newer rider, like if you've been riding for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, it takes time. The work you're doing now is going to pay off next year and the year after and the year after if you're consistent. Another big factor, volume. I think when I was reading on the Trainer Road forum that they looked at kind of who were the riders with the highest watt per kilogram and what kind of volume did they do. And there was a correlation between the stronger riders riding more. In terms of like time on the bike during the week, I'll extend that out to, for certain rides, I might go up to 2 hours, although I tend to be in the 1 to 1.5 hour range. On the weekend, for kind of boredom and burnout reasons, for a while, I kept my Saturday ride to 3 hours or so, and my Sunday ride would be 2 to 2.5 hours. mostly endurance pace. Starting this fall, I really started pushing that out to like 4 hours, and I might go beyond that, and I up to 3 and 3.5 on Sunday. So the first time I hit 5 watts per kilogram was in January of 2020, and that was on 10 to 12 hours a week during a load week. Rest weeks would be more like 5 to 7 hours. In terms of structure, that kind of helped me get the bump over the 5 watts per kilogram. So when I started riding, I just kind of rode. Then I read some books about training with power and Joe Friel's Cyclist Training Bible and the Triathlete Training Bible. And I did some of my own plan development, but I wasn't really doing it. I had some structure, but I didn't have really structured workouts. I did every day. I had more like a volume progression. I spent a short period of time being coached, and at that time it just made it a little too serious for me. So I ended up going back to just kind of riding around. When I switched to the indoor only riding during the week, I still had no structure, but I was doing some Zwift group events and some Zwift races and stuff. So there's kind of a combination of intensity, but it wasn't no structured efforts, no targeting specific energy systems. And then in the fall of 2019, I started using Trainer Road, what I call their low volume plus plus. So I basically took the low volume, which is 3 workouts a week, and I would, for the sweet spot base, I would do that on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I would do active recovery on Monday and Friday, and the weekend would be just kind of like an open endurance ride, or Zwift Fondo or Zwift event or something like that, or occasional races, but not doing enough that it would impact my training during the week. And that really got me from like that 4.6 watt per kilo range up over 5 for a little bit. And then the big thing too is just weight management. You should try to max out your power first, and then what I did was try to trim back a little bit on the weight. But again, main thing is you got to be realistic. Like if you're 6'5", it's going to be difficult to get to a weight, where you're at 5 watts per kilo. If you're shorter, you might not put out as much power, but it might be more achievable for you on the weight side to get there. But I think the key things are, you don't starve yourself. You need to be eating enough to fuel your rides and feel like a human being. Like it needs to be a sustainable diet. What I did was I had started, after saying I wasn't going to do it for years, I started counting calories, and I just used that to maintain a slight, like 400 to 500 calorie deficit, and just trim down my weight over about 6 months. But my priority during that time was I needed to feel good on the bike. I needed to make sure I could hit all my workouts. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't have my FTP drop because of that. And now a big thing I focus on is low calorie dense foods. So that helps with me being able to eat like a ton of food and get that, the stomach stretch and that feeling of fullness, while still hitting my calorie targets. So just a couple warnings or things that I just don't think are that important. One is, should you be doing a polarized plan? Should you be doing a sweet spot based plan? Should you try to achieve more like a pyramidal distribution where you're doing a lot of endurance rides, but you layer on like the sweet spot and threshold and other work on top of that? I think part of it is you need to find out what works for you. So it probably makes sense periods of time on each of these and see what works. But I wouldn't get super hung up on these specific details and kind of the dogma that each of these groups people supporting these different philosophies throughout. Like, maybe you won't be fully optimized in your approach, but I don't think we can really measure that anyway at this point. Personally, I find that if I do a lot of endurance work and then start layering on like a more traditional approach, some tempo and then sweet spot work, and then progress to like threshold and over-unders is more of like a build, that works well for me. The other thing I ran into this year was what I'll call plan shopping. So don't fall into the trap of like doing one plan for 2 months and another plan for 2 months and another plan for 2 months. I think you really need to say like, this year I'm going to try this approach, see how it goes, and give it time to pay off. So this was kind of an issue I ran into this year, where I was doing some structured sweet spot heavy work, and then or in 2020, and then when things hit the fan in March, I decided I was going to do a high volume zone 2 experiment. So I was riding a ton. Then after that, I dropped into like a more of a sweet spot plan for maybe 6 weeks, and when that ended, I decided I was going to do the polarized thing, and I had structure the entire year, but the plans did not like complement or make sense in that sequence. So I would like pick an approach for a year and just kind of go with it, commit to it. At the end of the year, if it wasn't that great, switch and try something else. But if you're changing every couple months, you're not really giving it enough time for the effects to build in. Hopefully you got something out of this. Other things that you've done that you believe helped with your progression as a cyclist, please leave comments below, like the high level stuff, and hopefully we can all learn from each other. All right, have a good one.